Welcome to Phuket News TV, and what a great pleasure to welcome one of the doyens of Australian vignerons. We're speaking to Bill Hardy, sixth generation of Hardy Wines, one of the great brands of Australia. Welcome.
Thanks very much, Tim.
Great to have you here in Phuket, and it's a great event because Ambrose Wines and Spirits have brought Hardy's wines here. So the first question is, how is the wine business in Thailand?
Well, it's been growing for us very well over about the last 8 to 10 years. We first shipped our product into the market 15 odd years ago, but as we've seen tourism develop particularly, we've found that consumption has increased. Consumption amongst the Thai population themselves, I'm not sure is growing quite as fast, but certainly in these areas like Phuket, wine consumption has been very healthy, very good.
Where does the wine that's consumed in Southeast Asia come from?
Well, I think the New World is particularly popular, what we call the New World countries. So Australia is certainly number one imported wine into this country. Places like Chile and Argentina, of course, as well, and South Africa. The Old World, as we call France, Italy, Spain, the European countries, they still have a good market share too. But no, I think the Thais tend to like the style of the New World wines.
What is that style?
Well, it's very fruit forward. With our sunshine that we have in Australia, we have no problem ripening our grapes. So we find that our wines tend to be very fruity. They tend to be soft, not too acid, very easy drinking. Even some of them with a little bit of residual sweetness, which does certainly appeal, we find, to the Thai palate.
So what are the varieties of grapes that are popular?
Amongst our whites, Chardonnay is our most popular, Sauvignon Blanc not far behind, and then there are blends of varieties like the German varieties Riesling and Traminer, which also do very well because of their lovely fruitiness.
Now, Bill, we can't go past talking about the Hardy name because you're sixth generation vigneron. What's happening with the seventh generation?
Well, actually, Tim, I'm fifth generation.
Oh, sorry, I added you in another one.
No problem at all. There is a seventh generation though, which I'm thrilled to report. My wife and myself were presented with our first grandchild recently. So, young Gus Hardy is the first member of the seventh generation. Well, actually, he's not the first member. I have an older brother whose son has provided a couple of seventh generation Hardys as well. But the sixth generation, we've got about 10 members of the family, all of them now sort of working age, all in the wine industry. 3 of them have worked with Hardy's, the old family company, but the others are all in the industry in one form or another.
As a fifth generation member of the Hardy family, did you sort of begrudgingly move into the wine business, or did it just come naturally?
Well, actually, neither of those. I certainly didn't come in begrudgingly, but also it wasn't a natural thing for me. I actually fell in love with farming, just general farming, running stock and, growing crops. And it wasn't until I was at university studying agricultural science that all my university buddies said to me, "What about this wine thing your family's been in? Have you not taken a look at that?" And so I actually focused a bit more on wine, and I suddenly realised what a brilliant product it was, and I therefore started to steer myself more towards wine.
You've got a real glamour job, or it seems a glamour job. You're the brand ambassador. So what does a brand ambassador do?
Well, it is it sounds like a glamorous job, and it is, I guess. Here I am in Phuket, for example, having been staying in various resorts up and down the coast. A brand ambassador really gets around Australia and around the world, talking about Hardy's, doing tastings for people, talking to the press like yourself, Tim, and talking to our senior trade clients, really keeping the name Hardy up in front of everybody. And because at the moment Hardy's are distributed in something like 80 different countries around the world, I spend a lot of my year travelling.
Where do you see the wine business going over the next, say, 12 to 24 months, especially in Southeast Asia? A growing business?
It is. On this trip I've come through the Philippines, Indonesia and Vietnam prior to coming to Thailand. And in all those markets, there is quite good growth, not quite double figure, but high single digit annual growth of wine, which we're very pleased with. In fact, one thing I always like to point out to people, with so many people looking at China as the big cherry to pick, a lot of them are ignoring these Southeast Asian markets. And for Hardy's, we've found the Southeast Asian markets to be much easier to deal with, much more ready to take on the product.
What about things like import duties? Are they still a barrier for an Australian wine?
Here in Thailand, I must admit the tax regime is pretty high on wine. We're quite surprised by that, and I have to feel it would be somewhat of a barrier to wine consumption. I understand there's been another rise quite recently, which is a per bottle tax, and so some of the entry-level wines are actually going to go up quite substantially, while the top-end wines are less affected by that tax.
In your time in the wine business, what's been the biggest change?
I guess packaging. There's a lovely term a few people have used to me. I've witnessed the democratisation of wine. I've witnessed wine going from being almost a snobby product only drunk by connoisseurs, rich people, to being very much a drink of many, many different levels of the population.
At the expense of things like beer and...
Yes, we've certainly taken a big slice out of beer and a smaller slice out of spirits, but nevertheless the wine has been the alcoholic beverage that it's gained most in sort of the last 15, 20, 25 years.
Bill, it's a great pleasure to have you here in Thailand and in Phuket, and good luck with your brand ambassadoring in the future.
Thank you very much, Tim. Good to talk to you.
Bill Hardy on Phuket News TV.